Okay, welcome. The title of this video is Setting Up a Routine in Class. And indeed, setting up a routine in class is very important. Structure and predictability are very reassuring to students. One of the most basic ways to establish a routine is to write the day's agenda on the board, whatever you're going to do that day. This gives students a visual reference point. And it also allows late arriving students to instantly get up to speed, so you don't have to stop the class and they don't have to ask, what are we doing? What are we doing? Which can be very disorienting, as I'm sure you know. Just initiating these rituals, something that basic, is enough to calm the class down, gather their attention, quite often without having to cajole them. This structure can help the teacher as well. In general, I like to start out the class with quiet solo activities like test taking, and then move to more, quizzes, daily quizzes, and then move to more active lessons by the end of the day or the period. The second way to set up routines is to, first is to mention what you're doing today, and then to mention past business and future business and write those on the board. This includes any items from the previous class that needed to be dealt with, followed by anything coming up soon that students need to start thinking about. This usually takes no more than 1 to 2 minutes. And one of the most common habits of successful students is that they look ahead, work ahead, and start early on future assignments. You probably did this as a student yourself because you're a teacher now. You like school. So this helps to get them into that rhythm. The third way to set up a routine is to come to class with your papers, materials, and plan in order so that no time is wasted in setting up your day or getting organized. Whatever your level of structure as the teacher, the students will, of course, likely have less structure and less organization. So you have to start out with clarity and structure every day. And last, this is really just general advice, but this is true. Create routines for everything in class, especially everything that repeatedly happens. So this includes training students how to turn in work, how to pass out handouts, how to pass back graded work, how to get into groups, how to write on the board, how to rearrange desks if needed for some activity, how to exit the classroom during fire drills, and in younger grades, how to line up for lunch or come back from recess. All of these, of course, vary quite a bit depending on your grade level or your level of teaching. Part of this can involve assigning students regular roles or tasks. This gives them responsibility and a small amount of power, actually. And everyone wants purpose in ways large and small. So giving students specific roles or tasks gives your class more meaning to them. And it helps them become invested in what goes on there, which pays dividends down the line for both teacher and student. Special roles for students can include being a group leader, being a discussion leader, helping erase the board, collecting papers, passing back papers, taking care of class plants or pets, being a class expert on a certain task or topic. And students who are invested in the class also inevitably help to control it. They help to raise the level of decorum. They set a generally high standard of behavior. For example, I give each student a number that corresponds to them as a person, and when they put it on every paper they turn in, and when the papers are turned in, one designated student puts them in numerical order before handing them to me, and that then puts them in alphabetical order automatically. And so that one small routine saves me a lot of time and mental energy, and it also gives someone responsibility and makes them feel useful, one of my students. Inexperienced teachers are often less organized, and the structure of the class time often reflects this. Every day might be different in their classroom. The order of activities, passing back homework, the lesson of the day, time for bookkeeping and class business is never quite the same. Some days they arrive less prepared and end up beginning class late. Some days are chopped into tiny 5-minute segments, while others, they'll spend a full hour on one activity. So these discrepancies can be disorienting to students, and they just don't know what to expect sometimes. It can also be quite helpful to post a written description of class routines, sort of like your almost like your bylaws, or like, hey, this is how we roll in here, and you put it up on the wall. To go a step further, some teachers even create a matrix that includes classroom rules together with routines. So this takes away any ambiguity, and it also becomes an excellent reference point if students misbehave. And here's a decent example here that you, of course, could use if you like. So this last section I will read in the first person, but this is actually written by Steph, my sister. This is her class routine. I wanted to do this video myself, and even though she wrote this story, so I'll read it in the first person. I typically start class by writing the day's agenda on the board. I then tell students to put away notes and books so that they can take a 10 to 15 minute quiz. This is followed by a 10-minute journal response to a text. She teaches English, so this is fitting. Students go directly from one activity to the next when they are ready. Doing the same routine tends to create calm and order at the beginning of the class. And this really solves a multitude of problems. First, students start the class quiet and focused. They don't need any instruction to get going, and they self-manage. Furthermore, my special needs students can spend twice as long on the quiz and just do the journal at home with no penalty in class points and no social distress for being slower or on the test or different from the norm. Many students have IEPs that allow them more time on tests, and so this method allows time pressure to not exist for them, and it doesn't single them out. So it's also been shown that frequent testing and low stakes testing, in other words, quizzes that aren't worth very much, has been shown to improve learning for all students. The teacher also benefits from this predictable structure and sequencing. I have 20 to 25 minutes free at the beginning of these specific classes to grade or prep materials or check school email for any urgent messages. So it really helps me as well. So after this morning quiz and journaling, we correct our tests out loud as a class, and students use yellow highlighters to identify pertinent clues on the test that pointed to the correct answers. When correcting or presenting information, I always project using a video visualizer and highlighters. Students have a copy of exactly what I'm projecting to them, so they can fill in notes or answers and highlight or annotate the most important elements that we're learning. Getting immediate and vivid feedback and explanations to questions they missed helps students lock in learning, as opposed to just getting back a Scantron 2 days later with a C on it and no further information. Okay, let's do a very quick study guide on this. Number one, what are the benefits of creating a routine in class to you? Write out the typical activities that take place in your classroom. Make an agenda for a typical day in your class. Plan a few different ways that you could structure your class time differently. Make a revised agenda. Try it out in class for a week. What do you notice? How do the students respond? How does it make your day easier to have a set agenda clearly communicated? And then, as usual, we ask you to share your results with your online teacher support group and to share the wealth. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for joining me.